Batgirls issue 12, which is Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad writing with Neil Gouge on the art. So, yeah, so the end of the last issue made it look like Riddler was the serial killer,
Okay.
the Hell Ripper that we had tormenting the part of the city. And very quickly in this issue, it's like, no, he's not the killer. He was just tracking the killer. And all those clues that were on the crime scenes, that's because Riddler had already been investigating the crime scenes and was leaving his own clues for whoever to follow, which turned out to be the Batgirls. So the actual killer is not like a big character or anything like that. He's just like this guy, basically, who had issues, and Riddler got interested enough that he wanted to track him. And this killer was like so proud that he hadn't left any clues that part of the reason why he's going after the true crime podcaster in this issue is because she's been spreading these clues that have been left. He's like, no, I left no clues. Like, my work's immaculate. I when I kill people, I leave no evidence. So yeah, so Batgirl and Cass, Steph and Cass are fighting Riddler, and Killer Moth's there. He wants to beat up Riddler for double crossing him. So Cass puts on Killer Moth's wings and like flies away with them, and like Steph's like, oh man, she's so cool, because they split up because Steph has to keep an eye on Riddler. And I suppose the big thing going forward is that Riddler teases that he's sort of like doing these riddles as you do, and he's fighting Steph, and he starts dropping hints of fathers and like people who are good at riddles, and ultimately hints that Steph's father's not dead, which is what Steph believed. So it seems like we're going to be getting a Steph's dad plot coming up in the coming pages, which is cool. I'm all for them doing some personal stories for each of the different Batgirls in this. What shocked me about this issue actually is there's not a lot of Babs, and I'm not complaining. I actually think it would be kind of cool for the issues to sometimes focus on, you know, one or two of the three over the others. Babs like calls the cop that they were working with before, and he goes and makes the arrest of the killer. But other than that, it's all Steph and Cass. Like, you've got Steph and Cass fighting Riddler. Steph's left alone with Riddler, and that does the personal stuff where they tease the future plots. And then Cass, of course, you know, is flying with Killer Moth, and then ultimately swoops in to save the day when the killer comes after the reporter. And what's actually really cool about this is that the reporter like gets her eye stabbed or sliced with a blade, and it's literally like a panel where she's got blood just coming out of her eye, and it's actually kind of grotesque for such a teen-friendly comic book. I will say the art is like, it's Neil Gouge again, who's been doing a couple of the issues recently. It does feel like it's maybe a little rushed in places. Like, there's some pages where it feels like, oh shit, we have to get this out. I have to just kind of, you know, it's a little bit more sketchy in places, a little bit less detailed. It feels like it's just a little simpler than it has been, and that's issues that Gouge also did. So I wonder if this was a little bit of a time crunch to get this one done. Which is not to say that it's not good, or it still doesn't fit the tone that Batgirl should have, because it does for the most part. So I can't really be too critical, but it definitely feels like, you know, if the art before was like a consistent, you know, 7 or 7.5, it's maybe down to like a 6.5 or something like that here. Not that we individually rate the art per se, but it's you know, just a little bit less. It just feels like there's a bit of detail missing in some of the pages. Riddler ends up diving out the window when the robot dog bites him, and Steph loses him. But it was a really great scene though when Cass swoops in and fights the killer, and you know, saves the true crime podcaster, who immediately is complaining she didn't get any of this like hostage situation on tape to play out to her audience. We get a fight scene between Cass and the killer, and this killer is like a trained guy who's good at what he does. He's ex, you know, military or CIA or something like that. And Cass, like, we get almost a classic Cassandra Cain Batgirl fight where, and this is by far the best the third person narration in this book has ever been, because this reminded me of old Cass stories where she would be fighting someone and it would all be like, you know, it's all these 9-panel grids, it's all these motion lines of them swiping at each other and blocking and stuff. But the narration is kind of getting into Cassie's head and talking about how, you know, her adversary is different. It's like fighting an alien. He's unnerving and unlocks the door inside her. She remembers her training, her brutal upbringing, and she needs to close that door. And it's, you know, it's this really it's a very effective Cassandra Cain style fight scene that made me think it. Basically, what I feel like is that this issue successfully had Steph and Cass together, and then split them up and gave me a very good Steph scene with Riddler, and then gave me a very good Cass fight scene with the Killer in a very traditional Cassandra Cain way, which was. She does talk a little bit, don't get me wrong, there's a little bit of dialogue during the fight scene, but it's mostly just the action, and then the narration kind of explains the drama in Cassie's head. Because I've not necessarily been a fan of the third-person narration throughout most of this book, but I think this is the best it's ever been because it's actually providing something in the moment as opposed to just being kind of witty. This was more like, no, like, you know, the feelings are going through her and she's remembering her childhood and she's swiping back, and basically it talks about how she has to give the opponent a little bit of hope because then they're easier to beat because they'll let their guard up because they think they're winning. And sure enough, that's what happens. She says nope and then like chops him in the neck. It's probably my favorite panel of the whole book, to be honest.
Nope.
So yes, and as she's ziplining away, she just turns to the podcaster when she asks, "Is there anything you'd like to say to the people of Gotham, Batgirl?" And she says, "Yes, I gave your podcast 5 stars." It zips away. That gave me a chuckle. By all means, everyone, give Comics From The Multiverse 5 stars on your podcast app of choice. Yes, please do. So yeah, it ends with Montoya giving a speech about the officer who went, Calvin, who went and arrested the Killer, and saying that the Batgirls are on the side of the police. The podcaster or whatever, she's going to give up drinking because the Killer accused her of being an alcoholic. So she's actually, she's maybe grown out of that a little bit, which is nice. There's a little bit at the end where Dick comes over and like basically is told, sorry, Alyssa came over with movies, and Babs is in the wheelchair. Apparently the doctor told her to spend a couple of days without the chip. I'm sure it's only temporary, but it just it's this idea that maybe sometimes it'll be like that. But yeah, we have Steph and Cass on a rooftop at the end, and basically Steph's like, I thought my father was dead, but maybe he's not. And Cass is like, yeah, but it's okay because we're best friends and we'll deal with it, kind of thing. So it's kind of a sweet ending. There's some white doves flying from the rooftop. Yeah. No, the arc was good. There's a little epilogue page though that teases that Mad Hatter is going to be involved. Next arc, and even teases that he's talking about reuniting a father and his daughter. So you would assume that means Steph and Calculator, but not Calculator, sorry, Cluemaster. I always make that mistake. I always think Calculator, it's Cluemaster.
Right. Well, yes. That's right. I called him Quizmaster in the past.
Yeah. So I assume that's what. I mean, it could be a red herring though. Maybe he's talking about someone else, and it's just sort of thematically setting up that we're going down that path. But yeah. So yeah, no, decent fun. I would probably give this like a 7.5. Probably just the slightly more rushed art, kind of letting it down, because I really liked what it did with Steph and Cass in this issue. Like Cass getting the big hero moment, saving the day, cool fight scene that felt very Cassandra, and then all the teases about Steph's future, all good stuff. Like this was a solid issue, just maybe let down a little bit by the art feeling a bit more rushed. So I'll say 7.5 overall.